I'm going to be real honest with you. I didn't follow the lead-up hype to Clair Obscur Expedition 33. In fact, I didn't really take notice of it until people were screaming about it to the heavens on social media. Despite the praise that the game was getting, I was swayed away from picking it up initially because it was being dubbed as a game that brought back turn-based JRPGs, and what all games in the genre should aspire to be. I didn't want to get caught up in the controversy of the discourse occurring around the game, so I gave it a wide berth. A little after its release, I decided that it looked interesting and perhaps I should try it for myself, without the preconceived ideas that it was or wasn't supposed to be something specific. I would just go in with an open mind and judge the game for myself. At the time I went to purchase it, I couldn't find it anywhere in the usual shops that I'd frequent, so I had to resort to picking it up online and shipping it over from the UK. So rather than being the cheap $30 that most people were able to collect it for, or thereabouts, I had to pay full price, Australian value. $100, baby! When I finally got it and started to play, though it was beautiful, I felt underwhelmed. It kind of reminded me of Assassin's Creed in the first hour of play, all that rappelling across rooftops, and then I got into a battle with a mime that introduced me to the parry and dodge aspect of the combat. I would be lying if I said I fell in love with the game. Not long after that frustrating battle, I put it down and decided that it wasn't for me. And that's okay, because some games just aren't built for everyone. A little later, a friend and I were talking, and he casually dropped Expedition 33 into the conversation. Now, I trust his opinion. I mean, he likes Locke from Final Fantasy VI. Anyone with that taste has to know quality. So I decided to pick the game back up, change the difficulty to story, and take the experience as it was holistically, for its narrative, rather than getting hung up on the combat, or my inability to adapt to it. Let's just say I'm writing this review now because I completed the game with this mindset, and I'm so glad that I decided to give it another go. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a role-playing game fashioned after a JRPG that was produced by the indie French development studio Sandfall Interactive and published by Keplar Interactive. The game released on April 24, 2025 globally across multiple platforms. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find something it wasn't released on. Unless you're Nintendo, then you're shit out of luck. Sorry. The game went through a 6-year development cycle, seeing it go from an art style reminiscent of an early Fable title to the photorealism that we see in the game today. For the purposes of this review, I played the game on the Sony PlayStation 5 on Story Mode. The Paintress, a towering figure who lay dormant until she etches a number into a great monolith, spelling the doom of the people of Lumiere. Those whose age sits on or above the painted number soon disappear in a shower of petals in an annual event known as the gommage. Every year, the number gets lower, meaning the lives of the people of Lumiere is timed. No one is permitted to get old, and everyone is left stuck in a stasis of despair, eking out their lives knowing that they will soon be up. Not everyone takes this lightly. Every year, an expedition heads to the continent, with the sole purpose of destroying the very being that paints the demise of their friends, family, and loved ones. Why she does this, no one knows, and the mystery surrounding this event forms as an appealing entry point into the narrative and its characters, as it serves to provide a purpose and a sense of urgency to the mission. Those departing on Expedition 33 have less than a year to live, as their number will be next. We enter the shoes of Gustave, a man who wants to be beneficial to the expedition, and we'll explore this reason a little later in the review. Gustave is a resolute man, determined to carry on his mission at all cost, though like all humans does have his faults and moments of weakness, which made him more believable as a character. Soon after a gommage that erases the love of his life, he departs to the continent with a contingent of other expeditioners, with resolve set to take out the Paintress. Little do they know that their time is about to end sooner than expected when they encounter an aged man upon their landing. Before anyone can reason how he is able to exist, they are cut down like blades of grass. It's all Gustave can do to get to safety, to save his own life, let alone think about those of his friends and fellow mission members. As he's trying to escape the carnage, he is caught by a strange monstrosity that strikes him down with a cascade of gathered energy. It's here that the scene blacks, and we are introduced to the narrative lens of the game, which tells the story in acts. We are first introduced to Gustave's act, and awaken again as him in a shimmering glade, where grass sways abundantly and a nearby waterfall promises a sweet caress. He is injured and alone, but must press on for those who come after, as the blissful sun-kissed fields begin to give way to hills of the dead, the remains of expeditioners that he had journeyed with. His mettle starts to fray and his mind crumble. Just as he is about to give up, he is snapped out of it by Lumiere, another survivor who urges him to get up and continue. Together, they decide they should head to the rally point, the indigo tree, where other survivors may be. When they arrive, they discover that Maëlle, a young girl that Gustave had taken into his care back in Lumiere, and also disembarked on the voyage, may still be alive, and this sets Gustave back on his path forward. One thing you will notice very early on is that the environment has an otherworldly feel to it. The locations, whilst beautiful, will always in some way defy the laws of nature, be it having you walking across the floor of an ocean despite being able to breathe, or witnessing elements of civilization cracked and floating in stasis. Whilst you can choose to run through these areas, you will be missing out on the various vistas and wonders that you can observe if you slow down and walk, turning the camera as you go. I really enjoyed exploring and soaking in the beauty of the world that was presented before me. Thoroughly exploring the world will often grant benefits such as chroma that can be used to purchase items from gestural merchants, or equipment and pictos that will make your life easier in combat. As you are following in the footsteps of those that walked before, encountering a flag will permit you to rest, or spend the skill points that you have earned. Be warned though, resting will cause all defeated non-boss enemies to respawn, so sometimes it's better to hold off on resting if you don't want to have to keep fighting in an area that you want to keep exploring. Whilst there is no map readily available to assist with navigation, I never found myself lost, as generally speaking, the paths forward were illuminated in some way, whereas those that did not bear light were where treasures could be found. Sometimes you will also come across painted cages that are sealed by wards that you need to find and disable by shooting them with a projectile weapon. This projectile can also be used to stun an enemy on the field so that you can get a jump on them and an advantage in battle. Connecting with an enemy on the field will draw your 3 chosen party members into turn-based combat. Characters may attack, use an item, use a skill, or free aim. Free aim allows the active character to take several shots at the enemy by using stored action points. I enjoyed this system as it was woven into the weaknesses of some of the enemies, and by targeting these points, you could disable their attacks or make them less combat effective. Each character can equip up to 6 of their personal skills to bring into combat, and I had a lot of fun mixing and matching characters to be able to support each other, though to be fair I did tend to stick with the same 3 characters. For example, having Lumiere set targets on fire and then other characters benefit from this action to bolster their own attack or heal themselves was a great addition and an edge of strategy. The characters are all unique in the abilities that they bring to combat. Where Lumiere uses magic and accumulates elemental stains that she can use to unleash powerful magic spells, Maëlle can change her battle stance between an offensive and defensive one, as well as Virtuous stance, which increases her damage output by 200%. When an enemy attacks is where the combat of Expedition 33 is praised and lauded, though I found it exhausting playing it on more difficult settings. You may attempt to parry the enemy's attack, which after successfully parrying all their attacks in a turn will cause your character to perform a powerful counter. If you cannot time your parries, you can try to have your character dodge instead. If you miss time a parry, you cannot try again against the same blow. However, dodges seem to be more lenient, and as long as you were dodging when the blow struck, it counters as successful, though dodges do not result in a counterattack. As you get further into the narrative, you will also get the ability to jump and counter, perform a gradient parry, or a very powerful gradient attack. I did enjoy the variety the combat had, and the element of input required from the player to execute the most optimal attack when using a skill, which reminded me of Legend of Dragoon or Lost Odyssey. However, as mentioned before, ultimately the combat was tiring for me, and not what I enjoyed most about the game. Whilst characters gain experience and level up at the end of battle, most of their customization and versatility come from pictos, runic symbols that embody useful abilities and stat boosts to the character that equips them. Each character can equip up to 3, but thanks to Gustave's Lumiere converter, when a character wears a pictos into battle 4 times, its ability is extracted and can then be equipped by any party member through using their Lumiere points. You can create a party that always attacks first, that can heal when successfully dodging or striking, or is resistant to status ailments and weaknesses, amongst many other variations. It felt like a basic version of how Final Fantasy IX handled its abilities, but also added a large amount of personal customization in addition to the character's individual skills. I also liked that the process of extracting the abilities came from the Lumiere converter, which was Gustave's invention, and narratively wove itself into the story, giving a tangible reason as to why Expedition 33 was often more successful than the ones that had come before it. One thing that surprised me and pleased me greatly was that this game had a world map. I was not expecting it and enjoyed running around it to discover the little nooks and crannies and secrets hidden across the expansive world. When you get tired of roaming, you can make camp, which sees your party bed down for the evening. Here you can talk to your allies to get closer to them and learn more about them, as well as use the services of the mysterious curator to upgrade weapons using materials that you have found along your adventure. I thought the camp system was great and greatly expanded on what Breath of Fire 3 did in this regard, having additional cutscenes and the ability to increase relationship levels with party members, as opposed to just getting their thoughts on recent events. Expedition 33 is, quite frankly, a visual feast. The leap from its early concept art to the haunting photorealism we see in the final product is nothing short of staggering. Every frame feels as though it has been painstakingly brushed onto the screen, befitting a world built around the motif of painting and erasure. I found myself constantly stopping just to take in the sights. A cathedral crumbling under the weight of its own beauty, a field of petals frozen in midair, or a quiet village suspended in twilight. Each location feels distinct in nature: forests, ruins, dreamscapes, the manor. But Sandfall Interactive reinterprets these staples through a surreal lens that keeps the familiar feeling fresh. Admittedly, the characters sometimes tread the fine line between lifelike and uncanny, their expressions occasionally slipping and exposing the puppetry beneath. Yet rather than detracting from the experience, it reminded me that this is a game, a narrative work of fiction created as a mirror of humanity, crafting an illusion befitting of the themes of art and its imperfections. It's a visual paradox, real enough to make you believe, but artificial enough to keep you questioning. The melodies, composed by Lorene Testard, feel like the heartbeat of the world itself, each note guiding the player's emotions with subtle precision. Testard, in his debut composing for a video game, clearly understood the mission from the get-go, using recurring motifs to foreshadow twists long before they are revealed. The score is not merely an accompaniment, but rather it's an unforeseen storyteller, carrying echoes of melancholy, resolve, and quiet dread. My favourite piece, Our Painted Family, plays in the manor and stands out as a haunting reflection of the game's themes. There's something deeply unsettling, yet beautiful about the way it warps and distorts, as though it's aware of the unfolding deception around you. It calls out to you, almost pleading for you as the player to wake up and scratch away at the paint laid thick upon the canvas. Much like the game's art direction, the soundtrack paints emotion onto the world, and by the end of the journey it lingers, an unfinished melody echoing through memory. I can't finish off this section without giving mention to the voice actors as well, whose talent bring the cast to life. Jennifer English as Mael grants our young heroine a quiet determination, whilst Kirsty Ryder as Lune is that seeking voice always wanting to understand why, and being the voice that continues to encourage the party forward. All the voices were great, and I also must once again shout out Ben Starr for giving such depth to Verso, a mysterious man who bears uncertainty whilst also exhibiting a resolve to break the cycle. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is one of those rare titles that asks you to surrender to its rhythm rather than fight against it. It's not a game that holds your hand, nor does it rush to show you its brilliance. It demands patience, curiosity, and a willingness to listen. Once I dropped my expectations and let it be what it was, presenting itself on its own merits, I discovered something truly profound. A story about the fragility of purpose, the cruelty of inevitability, and the quiet beauty of resistance. Sandfall Interactive has created something that feels both deeply personal and universally human, a meditation on art, life, and the spaces in between. The combat may not have been what kept me going, but the world, its people, and the emotional undercurrents woven throughout surely did. Expedition 33 left me with that rare sensation of melancholy satisfaction, the kind that lingers long after the credits fade, asking you the question of whether your choice was the correct one, and if the other could have been better. For all its imperfections, it is a masterful debut that reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful works are those painted with imperfections, and I am genuinely grateful that I gave it a second chance. By the way, are there games you have played that you put down immediately, picked up later, and then had to change your tune? Let me know in the comments. This has been Venoir with a review of Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for the Sony PlayStation 5. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more great JRPG and adjacent content. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I appreciate you, take care of yourselves, and bye bye for now.